Alrighty, hello there. I am Shaun McLaren, and here we have one of the best decks in Modern, if not the best deck in Modern, Death Shadow Aggro. Uh, Sometimes it splashes white. I elected to just try out the Jund version. Sometimes it splashes blue for Grixis Shadow. There's new variations popping up, but Death Shadow is the core of the deck. You're basically damaging yourself with Sacklands, Street Wraiths, Thoughtseizes, and getting a giant Death Shadow. So this deck, as you can see, the curve is very low, which is one of its strengths. It can function on very few lands, and yeah, Death Shadow is just a ridiculous card. When your deck is focused on making it big, 1 mana for, sometimes it's just a 1/1 that grows the turn you cast it. Sometimes it's a 10/10 or a 12/12, and yeah, pretty ridiculous. Then the other main threat is going to be Tarmogoyf, which is also a cheap big guy, and pretty much a lot of the cards in the deck also are really fast for growing Tarmogoyf, like Mishra's Bauble, Street Wraith, cost 0, and they're both good at making Tarmogoyf fairly large. So those are the two main threats in the deck, and it's kind of an aggro deck with only 8 threats, but Traverse is going to mean you basically have 8 copies of Death Shadow, or in some situations you'll be able to traverse for Tarmogoyf. And of course, it is very easy to get Delirium with Mishra's Bauble, Street Wraith, lands, and your sorceries. And of course, can also traverse for any silver bullets you want to add to the deck, like Gorklam Rampager. I rarely do I ever traverse for Gorklam Rampager, it seems, but still a good card, and certainly a good silver bullet some of the time when you just want to be able to trample through with a giant Death Shadow. So the other thing that makes this deck kind of so bulletproof is that it has a bunch of hand disruption in 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Inquisition. So you're able to sort of strip your opponent of whatever they're doing before they have a chance to sort of fight back, and you can, when you know the contents of your hand, you can control your life total as well to make sure you don't die to anything in their hand. And just 4 Thoughtseize, 4 Inquisition is really powerful right now. Then we also have Fatal Push, one of the best removal spells in the format, and certainly amazing in this deck. Tons of Sacklands to enable Revolt, as well as Mishra's Bauble, and it's just super cheap. Pairs really nice with Death Shadow. Also have Tarfire, which, of course, you're wondering, if you're not familiar with the deck, why it is Tarfire over Lightning Bolt, and that is because it's a tribal instant, tribal goblin type, which actually helps you get Delirium easier and grows up your Tarmogoyf. So it's 2 types, instant and goblin. And so Mishra's Bauble is actually one of the most powerful cards, even though it's such an innocuous card, because it's so good with Sacklands and Street Wraith. So you're often turn 1 Mishra's Bauble, look at your top card, and then if it's something you want, you cycle Street Wraith to draw it, and if it's something you don't want, you sack a Sackland and then get rid of it. Or if it's also something you want, you can just play like an Overgrown Tomb and leave it on top if you happen to have a land that isn't a fetch land. So 1 Tamir Battle Rage. This isn't really the old style Death Shadow decks with Become Immense Tamir Battle Rage. Just sort of the Miser's Tamir Battle Rage to sometimes just get your opponent. Make sure you aren't just losing to like a wall of Lingering Souls or something. Abrupt Decay, Versatile Removal. Dismember, also a way to hurt yourself and cheap removal, so potentially the best removal in the deck when you don't have many ways to lower your life total. Dismember is fantastic with Death Shadow. The Lilianas, I have a split of 2 Lilianas of the Veil and 1 Liliana of the Last Hope in the main deck. Liliana of the Veil, again, just great removal and pairs nicely with your discard package. Liliana of the Last Hope is going to be not only a bit of a delirium enabler, but a way to rebuy your threats, or even just rebuy like a Street Wraith. And then K-Command, similar concept, returning Death Shadow is pretty good, and then also just very versatile. So that's the main deck. As for the sideboard, pretty similar to just any old Jund deck sideboard. So Fatal Push for more removal, Surgical Extraction for graveyard hate, Grafdigger's Cage, really powerful against a certain subset of the format like Absa & Company, Dredge, and Grishol Brand or what have you. Nihil Spellbomb, really good efficient graveyard removal that doesn't hit your own graveyard, which is very important. You wouldn't want to be running like Relic of Progenitus in this deck because you want to keep your own graveyard intact. The 2-drops are mostly about showing up problem matchups. Collective Brutality is excellent against Burn, which it can otherwise be a little bit tricky because you are hurting yourself so much, but Collective Brutality is just devastating against Burn. And similarly, Ancient Grudge is great against Affinity, which can be a tricky matchup otherwise because they are so good at just dumping a bunch of blockers for your big guys and then killing you with cranial plating. So depending on what you expect, Burn or Affinity, you might want to change these numbers up a bit. Then we have Painful Truths just as card advantage. Another Liliana of Last Hope. Sometimes her +1 is really good and then you want to bring her in, or you just are expecting a lot of removal from your opponent and you want to rebuy your threats. Fulminator Mage for the land destruction, pretty standard. Maelstrom Pulse as sort of a catch-all for any problem permanents, Blood Moon, Ensnaring Bridge, what have you, and also good against Leyline of Sanctity, which is otherwise problematic for your Inquisitions, Thoughtseizes, and the Lilianas. And then finally, the tech card is of choice for me to tutor for with Traverse is going to be Vrol's the Scar Striped, which you may not know what this card is if you haven't. Well, he doesn't see a lot of play in Modern, that's for sure. So his main function is to scavenge Death Shadow, which is a 13/13. So you're paying 1 mana to put 13 +1/+1 counters on a creature. And also good scavenging Tarmogoyf as well, since Tarmogoyf is cheap and scavenges for a lot. Alright, well, let's get this deck on the road and play some matches. Alright, let's play some Death Shadow aggro.